DDG episode 100. My name is Dave Hunt, and I'm joined by Michael Swick.
Look at us, making it to 100 and celebrating it the only way we know how. A surprise recording out of nowhere because we needed to get it done.
Well, we've been talking about it for a couple weeks that, like, the 100 isn't like a real milestone. Like, I think in November, 2 years for us will be a little bit, to me, it's a little bit more important.
Yeah.
Because that's like whatever, 104 episodes, 104 consecutive things, or whatever it is, 52. Yeah, that number, sure. But go ahead.
There's someone who's like, oh, they're just messing around. They're gonna like try and do something. It's like, no, we're not even soliciting specific questions about 100 or anything. We were just like, I'm going on vacation.
I even put it out there this weekend to Michael, like, do we use an older Patreon one? Because, like, I've barely played anything this week. I've been doing like 38-year-old adult things in my house all week. You're trying to pack up to leave.
What's crazy? I packed yesterday.
Oh,
it's
good for
super weird.
That's impressive. So that's impressive. So
though my packing, like, I got home from like Sarah,
two pairs of jeans, 10 t-shirts, 10 socks.
No, I don't give myself the option to like have more than I need. So like I get home from work and Sarah had like spent time packing, and then she's like, you got to pack. And then I'm just like, 4 random shirts from the closet, throw them in the bag. We're like, right, we're gone for 4 days. Here's a shirt for each day.
Yeah.
And I was
no anticipation of what happens if you get wet on a water ride. You're like, I'll just dry out.
Yeah, just dry out. Just throw that in there, and I was good to go. But it's weird. I'm packed, so
awesome.
I'm just playing a lot of video games right now, just trying to be like, I can't play anything for the next 5 days. Let me get some stuff done.
Yeah, so obviously, yeah, it is episode 100. We are Digital Days Gaming. We are recording right now on a Sunday, which is not typical for us at all. But like Michael mentioned, he's getting ready to go out of town. Unfortunately, I'm going back on overnights for a week, so this is kind of just working out for all of us that I'm off during the day today. Before Michael leaves. So, and yes, he will be. We've talked about it. He'll be safe. And I've seen even your significant other post some stuff about, I don't know if I'm ready to go back into the world of people. So.
Yeah, it's like I'm doing a little bit better because I went to that Sox game.
Yeah.
But there was like the first time, because you went to a Tigers game that was actually crowded, right?
I did. I went to one like in May or April, or in May for my birthday. That was like when Michigan still had restrictions, and it was like a terrible environment. Like, I hated it. I felt okay in terms of like my personal safety wise. Like, I felt okay, but I've been to Tiger games when they were terrible in the 90s, like terrible, and it never felt that bad, to the point where my father-in-law called me the next day and said, hey, I've got tickets. Do you want to go? And I was like, no. I go, yesterday was just bad. And then I went in August because like Cabrera was chasing some history, and my wife and I had a free weekend off, and the tickets were like cheap. So, and that was there was I don't know the exact number, but it was probably 80%, 90% full, and it didn't bother me, but as much. But it was definitely
probably
there,
a moment where you were just like, there's a lot of people here right now, like in terms of like seeing that many people, but not like you would be nervous, but there's definitely that shell shock of like, there's a lot of people.
And Comerica Park is a newer stadium than whatever the White Sox stadium is called that they play in right now.
The Cell. It's guaranteed right field, but I'm calling it the Cell.
But Comerica is open post 2000s, so like the concourses are much more open and spread out, and it's still outside.
Yeah.
So like we were definitely making strategic decisions about what type of food we were or weren't getting based on, there's too many people in line over there. We're not going over there. Like,
no, exactly. When I went to the Sox game, it was like that. It's just like, you know what? I don't really need this right now. And I walked around.
The only time I felt bothered was when we were leaving, and all these thousands of people are leaving, and they're trying to all exit out of whatever it is. You got, I don't know, again, you got 30,000 people trying to get out 20 doors, or whatever it is. It gets a little crazy there, but it sounds like, because you're going to Disney, so it sounds like Disney kind of has their act together in terms of what they're doing with lines and spacing and stuff, and they'll shut things down. I've heard if stuff is getting out of control, like they'll shut it down for like an hour or something if they need to.
Yeah, their line management in terms of like making sure the lines don't go too crazy long are there, and then they still have virtual queues for like the popular rides. So
And you're doing something that I probably won't do for another 6 months. You're getting on a plane.
Yeah, and that's the only thing that like I'm not really worried about it. I'm more worried about other people. I'm fine with my mask on. I work 8-hour shifts with my mask on. I could do a 4-hour flight.
Same.
I'm just worried about like that one idiot that's going to delay the flight because they want to fight, which we've been seeing more and more of those people. So that's the only thing I'm just like hesitant about. Of like, I hope we don't have these people that are just going to stir shit on this flight.
Yeah. So, but I think you'll be fine. I think it's cool that you guys are out doing something. Again, full disclosure, my wife and I have been looking at, we've never even been on a cruise, and we're looking at cruises now because of the prices. It's like almost like we can't not do this. And I'm like, let's just, but it is what it is. So, again, Digital Days Gaming, we're live on Twitch, twitch.tv/Digital Days Gaming, where there's a couple different faces in the chat because we're recording at normal time for some of our European listeners. And then a couple people are checking it out for 100, which is awesome and appreciated. And you can subscribe if you are able to. If you link your Amazon account and your Twitch account, you get something called Twitch Prime. You get a free sub that way. Or it's still September. Right? Yeah.
It's still September, so it's still September.
So you get 20% off your first sub, I believe, and then also 20% off gifted subs. So if that's a way that you want to throw some financial stuff at us, you can do that. But sharing the show with your friends is always super helpful, especially now, like I mentioned last week, getting up into the triple digits. If somebody's searching for podcasts, like they might not look at one that only has 20 or 25 because they I don't want to get committed to something that's been around a short amount of time. But we're like into 100 now, and we're almost 2 years old. So maybe if you share it to somebody and they look at our history, they're like, all right, these guys are consistent every 7 days, 100 times. Like, that's cool. So that matters to a lot of people. So if you can share, that's super helpful. A little bit of a lighter news week, but some interesting stories, so we're going to throw some stuff over. I had forgotten about this first one, so
this one a lot of people were throwing fits about, but I think it's actually more common than we think. Microsoft announced that Crystal Dynamics is basically co-developing Perfect Dark with the Initiative. This was just casually kind of just done on Twitter. They just kind of put up a logo saying like, we're proud to be partnered with Crystal Dynamics to bring Perfect Dark to life or whatever. And Square Enix is, I guess, leasing out Crystal Dynamics to get this. A little background to that is what's making people question this is the Initiative, the Initiative was formed in like 2018, and they were touted as a quadruple A studio, like the first quadruple A studio. And its current head is Daryl Gallagher, who happened to be in charge of Crystal Dynamics from 2009 to 2016. So this is still a Square Enix studio. They have not been acquired by Microsoft. They are just co-developing Perfect Dark. Dave, give us some hot takes on this.
I think some people are a little bit super concerned about something with this studio. Getting help is not entirely uncommon. Perfect Dark is obviously a marquee franchise name to a lot of people, not me specifically. And they are, like it was teased again too early, but I felt like Microsoft had to do something with what they were building with this, Dream Team studio. First of all, I think that their announcement and wording of this is terrible. Mm-hmm. Calling them, a Dream Team studio, a 4A, studio like that. You're shooting yourselves in the foot, which is dumb.
Yeah.
And then them needing help is not surprising because if you're throwing all this at them and they're still building talent, then they're not ready. So, and if you're giving them this type of IP that you're giving them a beloved IP as well as giving them a triple A or 4A studio name and calling them a Dream Team studio before they've ever produced a single piece of content is terrible in my opinion. And then this guy going, the head of the studio, going to who he knows and who he's comfortable with isn't uncommon. Supplemental studios, or like your term of auxiliary studios, happen all the time. Mm-hmm. And the fact that this is a bigger name studio is the only part that's a little surprising. But at the same time, as we can see, Square Enix and Crystal Dynamics aren't afraid to take money from anybody.
Yeah, well, 'cause Square Enix kind of still doesn't really know what to do with its Western studios. They're never
Correct.
happy
Yeah.
with their Western studios, specifically Crystal Dynamics. Like the last couple games. So when Microsoft is like, shit, yeah, we purchased Bethesda, but all those artillery studios involved are probably working on Bethesda games, so we can't pull any of them. Every studio they have has pretty much 2 games announced per studio. You know,
Before they were purchased.
Yeah. So Microsoft probably looked at all of its studios, all 23 of them, and were like, shit, each studio is either working on 2 games or helping one of the other companies work on those games. So they went to Gallagher, like, if we reach out to Crystal Dynamics, would you want to work with them? And I'm sure him working almost 10 years there, he was like, yes. Like, if we can get them.
Now, I don't think that Crystal Dynamics is going to help them with any game story, narrative, play decisions. I know that I just put like 4 words together. I think that the studio itself, the initiative, is going to control the narrative, the gameplay mechanics, whatever loop is happening in this game to keep players engaged. I think that Crystal Dynamics is going to help with world building and art direction and mechanics.
They have experience. So you're just looking at them. Not that no one on the initiative has experience, but they have the horsepower. They have like all the workers that they can just put on. And
I wouldn't be surprised if Initiative is using an engine that Crystal Dynamic is very familiar with also. And that could have been something, as well as much as people hate it when I tie things together like this, the Outriders deal for Game Pass showed that Microsoft and Square Enix have a working relationship.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
There's also a chance that like Square doesn't know what to do with Crystal Dynamics. The Tomb Raider games just didn't hit to their expectations. Avengers didn't hit to their expectations, but they're probably in a deal with Marvel where they need to like have Crystal Dynamics continue to work on the Avengers game, but then they're like, that's going to eat money away. Oh shit, Microsoft wants to just give us cash so they can borrow some people. Like, it just makes sense for Square Enix to do that. And Crystal Dynamics can like kind of get some relief just working on something that's not theirs, of being like, let's just step back. You know, not that Avengers are Tomb Raider or bad. And let's just take some time to figure out what we want to do next. And the best way to take time to figure out what we want to do next is to start on a different project. This is, to me, is very similar to what we found out about after the fact of Sony Bend helping Naughty Dog. We just didn't know about it beforehand. Yeah, this happens internally all the time, and it also happens externally. Like, people don't realize Bandai Namco have developed or co-developed a huge chunk of Nintendo games over the last like 5 to 10 years. Like Smash Brothers is a Bandai Namco game for the most part. But the producer that's employed by Nintendo happens to be working with a Bandai Namco team. So this is not uncommon. I mean, BioWare made a Sonic game in the early 2000s. Like, this happens.
And again, just giving it a retail perspective, and Michael can attest to this as well. Like, if you go into a grocery store, like Coca-Cola merchandises their Coca-Cola section.
Yeah.
Google merchandises and sometimes even staffs their Google section. Like, you're not talking to necessarily a Target employee or a Best Buy employee. You're talking to somebody that works for Google, who is then third-partied out by Best Buy or Target, or, the thing I just did for overnights, like for my company. I was in charge of like 16 people. None of them were direct Bed Bath & Beyond associates. Like, they weren't hired by Bed Bath & Beyond. So this happens in the world all the time. The pictures I've been posting of stuff that's been happening in my neighborhood with my sidewalk is the city of Warren is doing it, but the city of Warren doesn't have trucks in my street doing it. They have these other landscaping companies doing it. So like, this is happening in the world all the time. What sucks is that the initial response of when they built the initiative of like, we're building this studio of, we're putting Michael Jordan and Larry Bird together, and they're just not there yet. Yeah. So, like, that's the part that sucks. But I think people freaking out about this and thinking like this is going to. I just think they want to just keep pointing the finger at Xbox, like, oh, look at what they're doing, look at what they have to do to make sure that they make their first party games, and look at what they have to buy. And the only difference is that we're hearing about it beforehand. If they didn't say anything about this, we maybe would have never even known.
Well, it's like sometimes you'll finish a game and then you'll get to the end credits and then you'll see a different studio than you thought was working on it, and you're just like, oh, they worked on it. That's kind of cool. And that would probably have happened if Microsoft wasn't so like, if they didn't have too much hubris when they were saying like, we're making a quadruple A studio, this is going to be the biggest, game we've developed potentially, and then it's just like, well, Crystal Dynamics is actually helping. That the only thing that worries me is this probably means that Perfect Dark is not anytime soon. Like, this game is. Do you
think that it's going to have games as a service type elements in it as well?
Maybe depending on how the multiplayer goes.
Okay.
Like, I'm sure Perfect Dark, they're focusing on a really like in-depth single player campaign, and then maybe the multiplayer will have a tail, and that's something, Crystal Dynamics and Avengers, that wasn't like the most well executed thing, but they kind of got like a pipeline going over the last like year or so. So that is something Crystal Dynamics probably can help with if there's going to be like a multiplayer aspect of this game. If this turns out to just be a single player game, then I'm going to be like, why did you get Crystal Dynamics? Like,
right.
That would make no sense.
Yeah. Without, even if the multiplayer aspect only just has seasonal content, like even just something changing every 90 days or whatever, which is going to be par for the course by the time this game comes out. Because I don't think that like Crystal Dynamics necessarily did I'm trying to word this correctly, did a bad job with Avengers as a game. They're struggling with the games as a service part of it because I feel like they're pigeonholed with what they can or can't do with the Marvel characters.
I think so too, and especially most people that play the Avengers, they're like, this is a really good single player thing. So it felt like
it's a terrible looter because your loot can't look unique because Captain America, Iron Man, Hulk have to look like what they look like. Yeah. Versus a game like The Division or Destiny or Borderlands where you can just do something ridiculous, where you can have a gun that shoots hamburgers. You can't do that in you can't do that with Marvel. Like, you can't. Yeah. First of all, I don't think Marvel will allow it. And secondly, it's just, I don't think that people would care about it. Like, do you want a different helmet for Spider-Man? No.
Probably not. Yeah.
Sure, you could do different suits, but at the same time, your character looks the same. A lot of these games as a service rely on fashion or colors or earnable cosmetics that change the look of your player and sometimes can change your experience a little bit. I don't think you can do that with a Marvel franchise.
No, they're limited to what they can do. So when Square Enix is telling them, like, yeah, this is games as a service, and they're just like, okay, we'll do, what they ended up doing of just like, we'll do like weird expansions and like one-offs. And Square's like, that sounds good. How are we going to monetize it? And they're just like, oh, we'll have like 10 different currencies in it. And Square Enix is like, hell yeah. And then it just turned out to be kind of a mess. The game, like, Avengers felt like it was a really good single player campaign that they tacked on shit at the end of just like, yeah, no, this game needs to last 2 to 3 years. That's what the deal we signed with Marvel is. So we got to stretch this out. And
that's another one that we knew about way too far in advance. Way too far in advance.
We knew pretty much when the contract was signed.
Yeah. The Avengers project or whatever it was called that was going to be done by Crystal Dynamics, and everybody was like, oh, this is going to be like Avengers Tomb Raider. Like, nobody was thinking about a game as a service, like you said. So
but yeah, well, I guess we'll see what happens with that. I wonder, because I was kind of expecting like a Game Awards trailer for Perfect Dark. I don't think we're gonna get that now. Unless it's just pure cinematic. But we'll probably expect to hear from this game maybe next year.
When was, I guess, full disclosure, I don't know the answer to this. When was, so Initiative was formed in 2018. Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, but, like we just talked about last week, God of War taking 3 to 5 years to develop. And if you're developing, in your own stupid words, a 4A game, like, you're getting near 2022, like, okay, like, yeah, I'm with you. 2023, holiday 2023 at the earliest.
Yeah. The only problem is they were announcing people they were getting from other studios through 2018 and into early 2019, which then makes you wonder. And then they didn't announce it was Perfect Dark until this year or late last year.
The showcase, the Xbox's first showcase.
Yeah, so you wonder how far along this truly is. And now they have the bodies with Crystal Dynamic, they might be able to get into a flow of development that they could probably maybe get this out in 2023. But I wouldn't. Yeah,
so I was saying holiday 2023 at the earliest. I mean, or like this also, like, this franchise, in my opinion, has an August, September date written all over it.
Yeah, because I don't see
It's not a holiday one. It's not one you're going to walk in and pick up off the shelf because you see it and you're like, oh, that's out. It's not. I'm sorry. It's not Batman. It's not Spider-Man. It's not Halo. It's not Mario. It's not any of those.
Yeah,
you know?
It's one of those. It's a game that you could put out any time of the year, and you're basically hoping that you're going to get a 30-something to walk by the game aisle and be like, "There's a new Perfect Dark." It's not a game that you're going to put out during the holidays and be like, "Yeah, it's Perfect Dark."
Yeah.
All right. Next story. Just a quick one. So PS4 firmware that recently came out fixed the CMOS battery issue that was a big deal earlier this year. For those unfamiliar, if the battery in the system died, the little watch battery, the CMOS battery died in your PS4, you couldn't play disc games. You couldn't play digital games. So that was an issue. But they have patched it to where now if the console can no longer tell time, you can at least still play your disc games. So they have fixed that issue, which the whole point is because basically the trophy system needs to be able to tell the time for trophies to work, therefore the game to work. So if you couldn't connect to the internet, you would have to rely on the watch battery in your device to keep the time. So that has been fixed. So you can still play your games if your console cannot tell time or you can't connect to the internet.
I am super fascinated with what companies have the ability to fix via firmware updates. That it's just so interesting to me, to where we saw, like, you know, initially and early on in PS4's life cycle where like music like couldn't be played off a USB, and then all of a sudden it could be, and then the like just recently like Nintendo like now like, hey, it works, like Bluetooth headphones now work on the Switch, and we're like, everybody's like, wait, this has been out for 4 years. Now you're just saying it works after an update, like, which leads me to believe that it was always an option.
Oh no, it was. They just didn't want a license or some shit.
Correct. Yeah. And also it makes me wonder, like, is like how, and again, I don't want to dig on it, but how stingy is Sony being with these headsets that need dongles? Like, where like when you can do something like this to your system, to your firmware, like, it just makes you wonder, like, what else is being held back by choice, and what's the choice behind it. So
yeah, it's one of those things where it's like sometimes you wonder what dongles of just like, well, if my controller's Bluetooth,
correct,
why can't it work? And then most likely there's an answer. I know there's probably someone in the chat or listening that's like has a real technical answer, but from the outside perspective, not knowing that technicality, I almost feel like the dongle is just a gate to prevent you from using it on another machine.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like, you know, as frustrating as it is, I have an Xbox headset, I have a PlayStation headset. Why?
Your Xbox headset actually now works with the Switch. People found out, like the fancy Xbox one.
That's super fascinating to me, and now I want to try that.
Like if you bought that Xbox one with the 2 channels, that one pops up.
Well, then my Turtle Beach 720 should work then, right?
Potentially, yeah.
So I think it did already, but it didn't. But I think it might now, because essentially Nintendo turned Bluetooth on, is what they did.
Yeah, they just turned the Bluetooth on, and apparently it's not great. Some people have complained there is some latency issues. But that's just an inherent thing with Bluetooth. So it doesn't sound like it's high quality Bluetooth. It makes it sound like they didn't want to pay for high quality Bluetooth or put the work in.
But it's nice for a consumer that has AirPods, or you know, that they can just, now they can pull their Switch out, when they turn it on, they can double click. Like I've seen at my job, like we have these wireless devices now, these almost like portable phones we carry on, and I've seen other associates in other stores connect their AirPod to it and use it as their earpiece. And I'm the one that's like connecting a wire to my stuff. So like just the convenience of that is just like, it's just nice. And like something like this is good on Sony. I want to make sure that everybody on like that Sony fixed this. Like, that's good, because the console's getting older and these things are going to die. Especially if you're leaving your console in rest mode. Technically, it's kind of always running. And which means that battery's always running. How many times have you found an old watch in your drawer and you're like, oh, this is a really cool looking watch, and the watch is dead? Most people don't realize you can take it to a regular store and get it replaced for like the battery replaced for like $10.
Yeah.
You know, but I don't think getting to the watch battery in a PS4 is going to be easy.
No, they kind of bury it. You can get to it, but like I just had to do the thing with my GameCube that I was talking about a couple weeks ago, where I had to replace that watch battery because I needed to be able to tell time to play certain games. And watch batteries, I think they have like a 5 to 7 year lifespan, depending on how often they're being used.
Of continuous running.
Yeah.
Yes.
And the PS4 is getting old.
Yep.
They now just kind of need to go back and fix it for the PS3, because they still release security updates on a PS3, but I don't think they care enough to fix this on a PS3.
Do you think that anybody still working at Sony on the firmware department knows how to work on a PS3 anymore?
No, not at all. Like I think the security updates they do is just like they change like 2 bits of code just so the people that are hacking it have to like spend 20 minutes to go redo their code to get it to work again.
And wrapping to our other story, I bet you they third party that out.
Oh yeah. They have like they like get the YouTube hackers to be like, can you guys just do a security patch? We'll pay you. You know.
There's one guy that has an office with like a plant and a lamp and a desk, and they're like, "Hey, we need you to fix the PS3 thingy. There's something wrong with it."
Just like when they were gonna like turn off the PS3 servers, I just assumed there's like one computer in like a data center that just happens to still have PS3.
It's one of those pull down switches like in their breaker room, like in the
There's just an old man with a broom handle that just like hits it every once in a while. Who's just like, okay, it's fine.
Somebody's got to go get on the exercise bike for 20 minutes this month. Who's drawn the short straw?
Just a hamster running the PS3 servers. It's like,
oh man.
All right.
So we had a Nintendo Direct.
So, how do you want to handle Nintendo Direct? I put the things that I thought were interesting in our Google Doc, but I know.
I mean, there wasn't really anything that I thought was interesting. I want to start with, I'm fascinated by the power that Nintendo does possess in this market right now. There are multiple games that were announced that they said, demo available now or available today, that I then later was on social media, like on Twitter, and I saw the Xbox account and the PlayStation account tweet the same thing about the game. ArcStrider?
ArcRaiser?
ArcRaiser is on multiple platforms other than Nintendo. Mm-hmm. That card game, I'm not super prepared. I'm sorry. There's a new like card-based RPG game.
Voices of Cards.
Yeah, that's on multiple platforms, and that demo is on multiple platforms right now. Mm-hmm. And then the Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic release, obviously is not the remastered version, but are we getting this before the remastered?
Yes. Yeah. It's just a straight up port. It's the most Nintendo thing of just like, you guys are excited this game's getting remastered. Well, we don't have that, but you can play the original.
Yeah, but people are happy. Mm-hmm. Like, and I tweeted it out and I put it on Facebook and I said, to me, the Nintendo Direct was decent. There wasn't really a ton of stuff that I saw from it that I'm like, oh, that's great. But there are things in there that I know that my friends were screaming at their TV about. Bayonetta 3, Johnny as a boy is screaming at his television when he saw that.
It looked great for a Switch game. Like I'm excited for it, but I was looking at it and I was just like, that game would look so good on a modern console.
Yeah, like Kirby. As soon as Owen saw Kirby, I want that game dead. When is that coming out? I want it. Kirby's are fun. Animal Crossing. There are tons of people that are huge fans of Animal Crossing, and more content coming to that is great. I'm kind of just going through here, like the Castlevania collection, another one that was announced and it is available now, mm-hmm. and it's not just on Switch, but they controlled the message. And that's super fascinating to me that they were able to control, like they controlled Konami's message.
Yeah, and honestly, the perfect place to play the Castlevania Advance Collection is probably the Switch because it's handheld. It's the Game Boy Advance games remastered. It just makes perfect sense. It'll probably sell the most on the Switch, mm-hmm. Because they got ahead of the marketing, and then all the other platforms are like, we have it too. But at that point, everyone's already like, no, I already bought it on the Switch.
Yeah. So, like, real quick, based on your bullet points, so Kirby and the Forgotten Land, spring of 2022, just looked like classic Kirby. Which is great.
The Last of Us universe, basically. Yeah. Which I loved. People either thought it was Splatoon or some weird post-apocalyptic game, and it's like, no, this is a Kirby game.
Yeah. And they announced their own Direct, Animal Crossing's Direct, for November, and then they teased the Smash Brother reveal with its own dedicated Direct for October. They overemphasize like this is the end of Smash.
They've been they've needed to do that because they said that after the first character pack that like, oh, we're only doing one expansion pack, and then they're like, we're doing a second one. So now people are expecting them to do a third one. And Sakurai has said, I do not want to do Smash Brothers games anymore.
Yeah.
So he needs to get a break. And also, Ultimate lived up to its name. Like, it is the fucking ultimate version of Smash Brothers, to where I don't know what the fuck you do for Smash Brothers.
They've got to be running out of space. Like, in terms of like what Switch can handle and how many characters and what balancing wise and stuff it can do. Like they've got to be to the point where like, okay, like we're kind of capped.
Because they didn't announce, I know you're not a big Smash Brothers, but you know the hype with these.
Yeah.
Because they're doing their own like direct for it and not just including the reveal like they've done everything else, are you expecting something big for the final character?
I think not. I'm not expecting something big for the final character, but I am expecting during that directive they announce some like final balance patch.
Yeah, every time they
get like super deep into like what they're doing, and I think they're going to emphasize like this is it. Like this is the end of Smash, and do I think this is the end of the Smash franchise? No.
For a couple years, yes,
but yes, for a while it is, until I almost think that maybe we're going to start hearing, and I would assume like Nintendo's going to start building their own studio to make this. Like they're going to start putting parts together to make this. And it might end up, like to your point earlier, it might be that they're going to go to the Bandai Namco people and say, hey, what's it going to take to get so-and-so, so-and-so, and so-and-so? We want them to work for Super Smash Brothers Studio. Yeah.
Or Bandai Namco being like, hey, this studio we have only exists to make Smash Brothers. Like, we're going to gut these people if you don't make make an offer.
So, yeah, and like Hussein brought up a good point. Like, probably the next time we might see it is if and whenever the Switch 2 is revealed.
Yeah. But even then, like, if the Switch 2 is just 4K HDR or whatever, is that worthy of another Smash game? Or will Smash just have to skip the next generation? I think the next Smash will have to skip a generation. Like, you're going to have to do something crazy to, like...
Yeah, but, like, how do you evolve Smash right now? Like, what do you do for, like...
You have to wait for the hardware to jump significantly.
Well, not even the hardware, though. Even if the hardware does, like, what do you... Like, do you make it more graphically intense, to your point? Like, more of, like a less of an arena fighter and more of a one-on-one fighter? Like, I don't know.
You find a way to make the multiplayer work. Like the online, you build an infrastructure to support it, because like right now the online is still not great.
I'm terrified that like this next one, that like it might work on, they might make it so it works on mobile and on console.
Which they might be waiting for phones to hit a point where it's like, okay, it is 1-to-1, and they might have to skip a console generation for the next Smash. And then, but even then, like, do you launch with the 80 characters? Like, you have to at this point.
Do you go free to play and then do seasonal packaging and make all the characters earnable? Like, there's a lot of different things going on with that right now, and it's just kind of in the place where, like, I mean, Smash is what, 25 years old.
Probably, yeah. Probably
mid-90s, right?
Yeah, like late 90s.
Yeah. So, like, it'll be super interesting to see what they do. And then they also did, like we just talked about, the Star Wars Knights of the Republic release for Switch, like this holiday, not remastered. My wife saw that, and she's like, she knew that she saw it like during the PlayStation Showcase, and she's like, that looks terrible. And I was like, I don't think that's the remaster.
Yeah. But Nintendo can get away with it because the Switch is a handheld machine. So and stuff people like
are
that,
happy. Yeah, and people were happy. This is interesting. So we were talking about this before. So Nintendo Switch Online expansion pass. Terrible wording.
Cute, but terrible.
Yeah, this will be a new tier for Nintendo Switch Online that includes access to N64 games and Sega Genesis games. Wireless N64 and Genesis controllers available for purchase soon. More details next month on pricing and final launch lineup. So we know that they're $50.
Yeah, for the controllers, but we don't know what the expansion pack.
Right. What do you think? $10?
Right now it's what, a year's $24.99. I think they do
for the family pack.
Yeah, I think they bump
$39.99.
Yeah, just to get it to like round numbers or whatever.
It was talked about in the Facebook group as well. Do you think that the N64 controller is going to have Rumble?
You would be able to buy a Rumble pack back then, right?
Yes.
Or is that just an expansion pack?
It inserted into the back of the controller.
For $50 and it's Nintendo, no.
Okay, because apparently you can buy a Super Nintendo controller from Nintendo for $30.
Yeah. So yeah, but I think Nintendo might. I would hope it has like Rumble because that would be cool. But I could also see Nintendo being like, this is a thing you're not even supposed to open and take out of the box because that's just how they treat it all.
Yeah. So that the N64 controller, which I have. There's a lot of people that like this controller has a love or hate relationship. I just have good memories of this controller. It just took a little while to learn how to hold it. And then the Genesis controller I think is pretty cool. Yeah, like everybody's like, oh, look at this better option that's like $30. Yeah, but this one, like, whether we like it or not, we know this one's going to work well with Nintendo. Yeah,
and also just like it sounds dumb, but like the packaging's kind of nice.
The colors are correct. No. Like so it's interesting. Those controllers looked cool to me. Being able to, there's some pretty heavy hitters on that lineup of like being able to play Ocarina of Time again on my Switch. I think would be pretty cool.
I have a third-party N64 controller and they suck. So anyone that says like a $30 or $20 N64 controller will be fine, these suck. Like,
yeah. So it's pretty cool. And again, like just the dad in me is like, cool. I get to like Owen gets to play with an N64 controller. Like, yeah, like that's cool to me. Like that he got to show him like this thing, and he's just like, "What is this?"
Oh yeah, especially because it is a dumb controller. Like how they made it and everything. It'd be interesting.
It is disappointing that the Genesis controller isn't 6-button, but that just means that there's another expansion coming, and there'll be another controller.
No, so it's 6-button in Japan. So if you order from Japan, you get the 6 buttons.
Oh, okay.
Just because they're used to it more than the US is. So I wonder if it will be in Europe. Like, so Japan's getting a 6-button, US is getting a 3-button. I don't know if they made an announcement for Europe, so maybe Europe will get the 6-button because that's what they're used to.
I might have to order the 6-button just because. I have to put Angela on that.
And it's just a Bluetooth controller unless they did some stupid shit. That's going to be like, they region locked the controller.
Region locked, yeah. So, and then, like, I know we kind of hopped around a little bit, but like Castlevania Advanced Collection, ActRaiser, and Deltarune were all shadow dropped. Still fascinating to me that the Nintendo Direct was the place for that. Splatoon 3 story trailer. Awkward presentation for this. But
that
classic
guy,
Nintendo presentation.
That guy looked cool as shit. I just wanted to watch like the guy presenting it. I just wanted to watch a video of him just smoking a cigarette. I don't know why. Well, I think he'd look cool as hell smoking a cigarette, but I wanted to see
for like an hour after the Direct was over, all Owen tried to do was make that 3 like he did with his body.
Oh god, yeah.
And then Bayonetta 3 finally shown off and has a 2022 release date. It's not coming out in 2022. But
I think it'll. It's like we're looking at like an October 2022 release or something.
And then also like you didn't like the Hyrule Warriors. If you're really into that, they announced the
second expansion.
More detail and a second expansion for that. So that game has a really cool visual appeal if you like the Zelda world and you just like to just destroy things. I haven't played it myself. I should check it out, but. And then the thing that pretty much stole the internet was the Mario movie voice actors.
Yeah, you didn't read the way I put the note.
Yeah, the fucking Mario movie casting news.
Yeah.
You guys gotta love it when Michael gets me to curse, huh?
Yeah.
Right off the bat, like I know you have the list in front of you. Probably the one like Chris Pratt I thought was interesting. Right
Is he gonna do an Italian accent? Or is he just going to be like, I'm Chris Pratt, I'm Mario?
I think he realizes who he's going to be voice acting. So I think that he's going to do something. I don't know if it's going to be a full Italian accent.
I'm going to be so annoyed. Like I can understand why they're like, we're not going to do the stereotypical Italian accent because it's, it's kind of it could be cringe coming from anyone else other than the Mario actor's voice.
Yeah, I think that anything that like the marquee catchphrases that happen in the game are gonna come from the core Mario actor. Like the let's go or let's a go or it's a me Mario. Like that's gonna be the guy. But then lines in the movie are going to be Chris Pratt.
I feel like that would be pretty weird if the voice change. I guess we'd have.
But they made a point to talk about that guy's still involved in the movie at the end of the casting listing.
I guess. Do you think there's multiple Marios? Are we gonna get the Mario verse? Like
the MBU Mario Brothers universe.
The Mario so the casting, like
Is it Cat Mario? Is it Rakan Mario? Is it Kate Mario? Is it...
Like, so the casting, there was some decent choices that they made, and there's just like two that I have a problem with. So Anna Taylor-Joy is going to be Peach. That's fine. Good actress. I don't really have any attachment to Peach's voice.
Again, I'm terrible at actor and actress recognition. When I saw her picture, I'm like, I don't know who that is. And my wife's like, that's the girl from Queen's Gambit. I'm like, what?
Yeah.
Like, I was just like...
Yeah. So we have, Chris Pratt be Mario. I think that's a mistake, but we'll see what happens. Chris Pratt is one of those ones outside of like the personal shit, because I try not to focus too much on the personal stuff of some celebrities. I think he's just kind of overexposed right now in terms of just he's in everything, and I'm kind of just getting tired of it. Yep. Charlie Day as Luigi. I'm kind of into that. I like Charlie Day as an actor. He's hilarious and It's Always Sunny and everything he does. I can see him doing either...
he'll get really into his Luigi guy. Yeah.
And he's one that if he doesn't do the Luigi accent, I think it's fine, just because he's kind of funny on his own with his own voice. Jack Black as Bowser. That seems inspired. Like that is a good...
Jack Black's going to have a blast.
Yeah. Seth Rogen as Donkey Kong, not really into that. I don't really like Seth Rogen's voice, but I can see that working, depending on how big of a role Donkey Kong has. But if we're going to do the Mario Extended Universe, do I want a Donkey Kong movie starring Seth Rogen? Probably not.
This is a deep dive analysis by Michael Swick.
Yeah. Keegan-Michael Key as Toad, fucking perfect. Keegan-Michael Key is hilarious, and I hope he does like his... angry Obama interpreter voice for Toad. If you've ever watched Key and Peele, I want that for Toad so bad. And then you have like Fred Armisen as Cranky Kong. Fine, that's good. And then the only weird thing is like having the Mario actor in the movie and just being like, he's going to do multiple voices and it's going to be a mystery. And it's just like, if you're going to have him in a movie, that means he was available to voice Mario. Have him voice Mario, unless his acting is just so bad outside of video games.
Yeah, what people don't realize is that it takes 300 hours to record the voice lines for Mario games with him, like or something like that. Like
Mario doesn't ever really do full voice dialogue in the games.
Maybe his pacing is just awful.
Yeah, to where like, oh, we really need you to like. Really
I mean, like this execute. Is going to. I have a feeling this is going to have Despicable Me vibes in it, right? Like it almost has to. It's the studio that the initial
Illumination.
I almost called it Illumination. So there's going to be some over the top, ridiculous, funny things, and this at the same time, this is a Mario movie. I think that what a lot of people are terrified of is that we're going to get that live action Mario Brothers we got 20 years ago or whatever it was.
Yeah.
And I don't really think that's going to be this. They're going to get to control the aesthetic. Obviously, Mario's going to look like Mario because it's an animated movie. Bowser's going to look like Bowser. And I think that it'll just, I guess the most intriguing part is how are you going to tell like an intriguing, unique story of Princess Peach gets captured and this is how we get her.
Yeah. And thinking about it right now, because they cast Anna Taylor-Joy as Peach, I probably don't want to hear Charles Martinet, the voice actor of Mario, have to do any sort of romantic voice work with that actress. Cause like, I guess I would rather hear Chris Pratt try and romanticize with Peach than fucking Mario.
Yeah. So I guess like you asked me about the Italian accent question. I told you I didn't know. I kind of copped out. Do you think that you're going to be able to, when you turn the movie on, be like, okay, that's Chris Pratt?
I feel like with how these animated movies work, yes, that's why they hire all these actors. So I have a feeling you're going to know it's Chris Pratt. Like, I think all these actors are just going to do their voice because that's kind of how these movies work now.
Is there any part of you that thinks that since they were able to secure some of these bigger names, obviously budget plays a factor into this 100%, but because they were able to secure these bigger names, like the script doesn't suck?
No. Have you seen Shark Tale starring Will Smith and Angelina Jolie? Like these movies.
Sure, I have. So.
Like these actors half the time do not give a shit. It's just like work they can knock out within like a week or two and pass a check. I mean, the Smurfs movie? I had to watch that like 2 months ago and record a podcast about it. That was like 2 hours long. That had a good voice acting, good
But I
voice
think
cast.
that did okay financially. Like,
Oh, financially fine, but like as a movie, I like really thought
but that's
about.
all that really matters, Michael, is if it financially does okay.
Movies are art. That wasn't art. The Smurfs movie was bad. So like I don't think the high quality.
It got more than one, right?
That doesn't mean it's good. Beverly Hills Chihuahua has like 5 movies. Like voice acting doesn't matter. You could, because it's just about celebrities cashing checks, and then like no, Curry Master, the Smurfs movie is not good. Don't derail this.
Curry, it's okay. He doesn't have kids. Like, that's the difference. He doesn't have kids, so he doesn't have any barometer to it. It's okay.
Yeah, so my life hasn't been drained to where I watch the Smurfs movie and are like, this is fine. This is fine. Ugh. If you want to hear me talk about the Smurfs for 2 hours, every movie ever did an episode a couple months ago. Check that out. But yeah.
What Michael's saying too is Curry just wrote it was Smurftastic.
Yeah, Curry, you know what? Just for that, I'm throwing the Judgment disc out, even though that hurts me financially because I purchased that. I'm just gonna toss Judgment in the trash.
He's gonna buy you another one, and he's gonna send you a copy of it with Smurfs inside of it.
Okay, yeah, yeah. Do that. See what happens to the Smurfs. Ugh, God, that movie was trash. There in the Smurfs movie, there is like a sequence where Neil Patrick Harris plays Guitar Hero with the Smurfs. Terrible.
Okay.
I'm banning Curry from the Twitch chat.
No, it's like the only place he interacts with us. You can't do that.
Okay. Strike one, Curry. Strike one.
All right. So that was the end of the Nintendo Direct. So overall, like typical Nintendo Direct, we got like 24-hour notice or 48-hour notice it was happening. Some cool little announcements that were in there. And again, like I don't like. Do you feel the same way I feel about like the shadow dropping in the Nintendo Direct? Like,
yeah, I think it just shows you that the developers get like a lot of like. Dave's like laughing at the chat.
He calls you Gargamel.
Yeah, which is played by Hank Azaria, and he does a shitty job in that movie. Yeah, no, I think it just shows you that Nintendo still has like a lot of power with what they're like able to do with their directs, to where I'm sure there are a lot of these game announcements that are held like Sony, Microsoft makes an offer to some of these developers, and they're like, no, we'll wait for Nintendo to give us an offer because
I wonder too, like with the precedent that Nintendo has somewhat set with the directs of where like usually with every direct there's like something that's like download it now, like there's always something in there, and I wonder if they have data that shows like how many switches are turned on during a direct. And if they go to like Konami and go, hey, our last 4 directs we had blah 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 switches turned on and downloaded right then. So like in terms of pre-orders or demos or the game itself, like how many people maybe thought similar to what I thought and went and bought the Castlevania collection, like, oh, I want it, and then they find out like an hour later, oh damn, I could have got it on PlayStation. Oops. Oh
well. I mean, shit, that happened with Boyfriend Dungeon, where I bought Boyfriend Dungeon, and because it was like Nintendo Direct drop now, and then later that day Game Pass was like, we have Boyfriend Dungeon, and I'm like, son of a bitch, I spent $20 on that.
Right. So it's just like one of those things. I wonder how much that happens. Like ideally, like you said, like maybe the best way to play Castlevania is on a Switch because of handheld ability, but maybe the best experience for it is on Xbox or PlayStation.
Yeah, which often happens to be the case just because of the power. Right. And also what I think helps the Switch is every time you turn on your Switch or wake it up, you have 3 panels that are like new releases just announced, and like a spot that just says Nintendo Direct. So if you launch that day during that Direct, you probably have one of those 3 tiles. So everyone turning on their Switch that day will see
there was
that.
a Nintendo Direct. Yep.
Yeah, or knew your game released that day if you were one of the few games that released during that Direct. So I think that's very powerful and something that like I'm sure Sony and Xbox have been trying for so long to figure out like their dashboards to get people in, but Nintendo just has a way more blunt way of doing it to where you can't start your console without seeing that.
It's way more blunt, and then for whatever reason, and again, I don't know like if this is just Nintendo like just living in this different realm of, I'm not as bothered by it as like when I turn on my PlayStation and it's like there's this big Deathloop ad on my PlayStation. I'm like, this is annoying. But it's not annoying when I open up my Switch and there's a direct thing on there.
And then you have to hit A 3 times just to get past it.
And I'm just like, huh. And I don't have a logical reason as to why, other than it's always been what Nintendo does since the Wii, and then it hasn't been what PlayStation did.
Yeah.
So like that's the only thing that I can, speak to in my mind of like where, all right, Nintendo gonna Nintendo. Why is Sony trying to Nintendo? This is bullshit.
Why is there a Fortnite ad when I turn my PlayStation on? This pisses me off. Nintendo, 4 ads are on to just turn it on. And I'm just like, oh, okay, I have to press home button. And sometimes I press the A button and that accidentally launches one of those windows. And then I'm kind of upset, but it's like we give them a pass. No idea.
Wait, that game came out? Okay, I'm going to buy it.
Yeah.
All right, so thankfully, nothing got delayed in the last 4 days that we recorded. So what we're playing and watching, like I said, my list is very, very short, because of working on the house and my front yard getting blown up by the city, and just other things that are going on, getting ready for a bunch of different things. I'll post a bunch of pictures and kind of let people know what's going on. So I think it's important. It's something sometimes I did for a long time, especially with PS Nation, that I was kind of very closed-minded and closed off with a lot of you guys, and a lot of you now get, I get people that message me like, hey, is everything okay? Like, I know that, I get somebody that goes, is your daughter and son doing okay in school? And that feels good. So like showing a little bit more of, at least from my standpoint, of the personal stuff that's going on in my life with you guys is always cool. And then a lot of you guys can relate to me too, which is always super helpful when I get messages from people all the time. If somebody's like, oh, if I live closer, I'd come help you install the floor. Like, oh, cool. So after we recorded last week, I played more of Kenna Bridge of Spirit, and got my ass kicked. I think I beelined the main campaign too much. Like you and I had talked about the exploration, where it's a delicate balance of, I'm having a really hard time finding karma in the game right now.
How sensitive is your vibration for your controller? Because that's a key to it. Like you get just like a little knock when you're near karma or another rot. Okay.
I do feel that in my dual sense, and I do try to look around. I just need to do a little bit of a better job. I essentially need to like go around tapping the shield button to do that burst thing, and try to find more stuff. I found tons and tons of coins, like tons of them, but I am like standing the cat statues back up and trying to figure some of that stuff out. But I got to this boss, just came out of a tree after cleansing some shrines, and it just kicked my ass for hours.
Yeah. So because Kenna's like gameplay isn't as in depth as there's nothing wrong with the depth of the combat, because it's so like casual. I think there's nothing wrong with playing this on story mode and just enjoying like the story.
I never even really thought about turning the difficulty down, because I'm like, I want to beat him. And then I was like up way too late trying to beat him, getting frustrated, like starting to like toss my controller in the air, frustration, and then looking at a couple things and like oh, you have to have this power up, and I look and I'm like, I don't have 400 karma. Like, where are these people already getting 400 karma from? And then I start kind of exploring around a little bit, and I tried to explore around a little bit, and I just kept finding more things, and like I also. Like in my mind, I know how these games work. Like I find where the roots can pick up a stick, and I'm like, okay, this thing has to go somewhere. There's a reason why you can pick this up. It has to go somewhere, and I can't find where the somewhere is.
I'm enjoying it from exploration, so I don't really care about the combat. Though I do get turned around a lot when I am exploring, because everything it's in a forest, so everything kind of looks the same after a while. Yeah. And there's been a couple times where I go down the path and I'm just like, shit, there's an invisible wall here. Which is kind of frustrating, but that kind of gives it that throwback vibe of like, this definitely does feel like a PS2 game, in a complimentary way, or in some of the
I don't have a problem getting my butt kicked by the boss. Like, that doesn't bother me, because I can like attest to I wasn't using the shield mechanic enough. Like there's an upgrade that gives you a rot ability right away when you enter a fight that I didn't have unlocked yet, which I can see that tremendously helping. I did run into a situation where it took me a couple times to beat a boss. Again, that doesn't bother me. I beat this particular boss 2 times, and the game went into like super slow motion, almost like to where I was like had to reload the checkpoint. So, and then some so if you run into that situation where the game, my wife found it online, where the game starts to like dramatically slow down, change the visuals of the game, like change the performance mode of the game, and it should help.
Yeah.
I haven't seen the developer has acknowledged that there's a couple things wrong based on community, like them seeing with community. I haven't seen a date or plans for a patch yet though. But yeah, I also haven't turned my PlayStation on in a couple days, so there could be a patch already. So, however,
I don't think it's patched.
Thanks to Hussein as well, and my wife for being nice enough to be like, yeah, that's fine. We did order a plushie rot, they do exist, like the little stuffed character.
Those are super cute.
Yeah, I'm gonna get one of those hopefully here pretty soon. And she also ordered me like a Destiny collectible Christmas calendar. Advent calendar. So, so I'll definitely post some of those pictures up online.
Each time you punch a door, does it give you just a little bit of story?
I don't know. Maybe that's probably hidden. That's probably hidden behind the door inside of a card.
Okay, yeah, that's what I would hope. Is there's just the grimoire cards or whatever in each one that says the moon, and then you're like, oh my god, I can't wait to see what happens to the moon in day 2.
Oh, for the record, I'll probably just open all of it.
Of course,
because I don't have any patience.
Angela, you better not let him. He has to wait.
And then I watched Ted Lasso. So getting close to the end of this season, I just think the writing and the character development in the show is really good. So,
I did watch that episode. You didn't really like the beard episode.
Yeah,
it was a good Alice in Wonderland.
You probably
episode.
loved it.
Yeah. So after a couple minutes, I'm like, are they doing an Alice in Wonderland? And then it was like, oh yeah, they're doing Alice in Wonderland. And
okay, I guess I didn't look at it from that perspective. Yeah. I do. There is a part of me that does want to go back and like watch season 1 again. Because like my wife was telling me, so like apparently it just like I don't really pay attention to this, but apparently it just like cleaned up at the Emmys.
Yeah, it's like the boss lady won, Roy Kent won, Jason Sudeikis won, and then I think writing won. Like they just destroyed.
So it's making me kind of want to go back and watch the other season. And we were talking about it because there's been such a focus on diversity in the world the last year or two, and there's a lot of people that were kind of hating on Lasso doing so well because, to be frank, it's a majority of a white cast. And my equation to that is like every once in a while there is just a slam dunk. Like and unfortunately, no matter what it is, yes, I would love for like Ted Lasso to be a more diverse show, sure. But does it mean that the show is not good because it's not diverse? Absolutely not. And I equate it to like Barry Bonds hitting like 70 home runs and then the New York Yankees winning 130 games. Like everybody's going to talk about the New York Yankees winning 130 games, even though Barry Bonds did something really cool. It's just because every once in a while there's just something that just dominates.
Yeah.
And it's okay.
Yeah. Well, so like the thing with the Emmys is like Ted Lasso killed in the comedy awards. And there wasn't much competition in the comedy awards this year. But in the other categories, there was more controversy with like who won and who didn't win. Like The Crown winning everything was probably more frustrating.
I was
Ted
seeing
Lasso.
more stuff about Ted Lasso just because I pay attention to Ted Lasso. That's all. So
I think
don't. To be honest with you, I don't really pay attention to the Emmys much at all. Just like I don't really pay attention to like the Grammy or not the Grammys, but the movie awards or whatever. Because
Academy Awards,
because 90% of those movies I've never seen.
Yeah, I think more people, including myself, were more like frustrated that The Crown won everything, and I like The Crown.
I don't even know what that show is.
You can just guess by the name. It's about the Queen of England. That show, not diverse at all, won pretty much every drama category when it was like some questionable like calls. As opposed to Ted Lasso, I think there's not many people upset at Ted Lasso just because when you looked at the comedy section this year, Ted Lasso is doing really. I think Ted Lasso is a good show, but I think it's really doing
it's
well.
It's great because they got nothing to go up against.
Exactly. That's what I was going to say. It's like there's just not much competition in the comedy section from last year. Surprising. Not a lot of comedies in a pandemic year. And it's just one of those things where it's like Ted Lasso was able to clean house because, like, I don't know. If Barry came out with the season last year, Barry probably would have destroyed Ted Lasso. But, like, it's just Ted Lasso's the comedy. And Mythic Quest doesn't get respect. Like,
yeah, absolutely. And because it's on the same channel, but it's just for whatever reason, it's just, I showed it to a friend of mine that I was working the overnights with, and he goes, "Oh, that guy's in it?" I was like, he's and it's from this Always Sunny developer. She's like, "I'm 100% watching this."
Yeah.
Like, so I just think it's obviously not as I don't feel like it was marketed as well as Lasso was either. So
yeah, Apple just has I guess Apple doesn't have infinite money to throw like they throw at Ted Lasso.
They gotta market that 13th version of their phone.
Yeah.
So, and then just hope that you watch all these shows because they give you subscriptions when you buy their phone.
90% of those shows do not interest me.
Yeah, I agree. I was like, there's got to be something else on here, and like, nope, there's like 3 things on Apple TV I want to watch.
Like, there's a Emily Dickinson's teen drama. No, I'm all right, Apple. I don't need that.
We tried that. Angela and I tried that.
No.
Didn't get very far.
The boring Joseph Gordon-Levitt show where he's just like, I'm just a boring dude. No, I'm fine, Apple. It's cool. I can avoid that.
All right. So what were you playing and watching?
Kenna. I tried playing some Halo Infinite because it is the beta going on right now, but it's very specific window, so I was only able to get a match in, so can't really grasp how that was. But Deathloop is consuming me. Any free time I get, I'm watching I'm playing Deathloop. I last night I was up until like 1 a.m. playing it. From like 9 o'clock to like 1 a.m. I'm just playing Deathloop. And as I said last week, I'm just like exploring, trying to get as much data as possible, just because it's kind of ridiculous when you look at like the paths that you can unlock and just all the details you find, and then trying to like cipher through all that to like figure stuff out. But like yesterday, my session ended because the day ran out, so I died. Just automatically. You just... Like when the day runs out, it just like, okay, so you're going to just wake up and then it's going to be a new day. But I got to the end of the day and like I cleared an area and I had killed 5 visionaries. And I'm just like, I only have 3 more to kill and technically I can beat the game, but I just ran out of time. So it's just like, okay, I just got to go in the next day, and I found out enough information to do the thing I wanted to do, where it's just like, oh, there's a chance I can get 4 people in one room. But I have to do very specific things. Like there's like a scientist who, if his experiment fails, he'll go to a party that 3 other people happen to be at. But if his experiment is successful, he just stays in that place.
Working on it more.
Yeah. So there's those aspects of just like, okay, so in the morning, I'm going to have to go take care of his experiment and make sure it like fails. So then
there's the game has the perfect path, right?
Yeah.
Like it exists.
Yeah. Like there is a chance that you can get enough people together and they might be close enough that you throw your invisibility on and chuck a grenade. And it's like, all right, you killed like 5 people.
Right.
And then you just have to go fill in the rest. Cause I think I've pretty much individually, I've gotten each visionary, but I just haven't been able to get them all 8 in one day. And that's basically what I'm trying to do. It's just like killing the visionaries is not actually that hard. Like at all. They have the same amount of health.
It's executing the perfect path. That's the challenge. Yeah.
Which I enjoy, because I was worried that it was going to be like mini boss fights every time. Like they do have special powers, but the powers aren't OP. Like they're not
but
over.
you can still stealth kill them. Like,
yeah.
Like
it doesn't matter how many powers they have. If you have a purple shotgun and you're 2 feet from them, they're going down in one shot. Like for the most part, and that's also what I'm doing. I'm the worst person for stealth, because I am literally doing stealth until I get to the back of them, and then I just shotgun blast them and then destroy my stealth, and then I have to like fight my way back out to the door. So still enjoying the hell out of Deathloop. And then that's pretty much it. I know it's not the most exciting playing and watching section, because it's like still playing Kenna, still playing Deathloop. Those are the 2 most entertaining games right now. And then because I'm going on a trip, I'm debating on taking my Switch. I feel like every time I try and play my Switch on a plane, there's always like the person next to me who like looks over my shoulder and I don't know who they are because they're a stranger, and that bothers me. And then I just like put the Switch away. I'm just like, okay, I'm just not going to do this. Because I kind of want to play the Castlevania Advance
This
Collection.
guy's playing a boyfriend game.
Yeah, exactly. You know? Well, it's like, I remember when I had the Vita, when I went to PAX that one year, and I was like trying to play Danganronpa, but I couldn't because there was like a 10-year-old sitting next to me. Danganronpa gets questionable sometimes, and I'm just like, I can't play this. Like, I can't play this. So I'm debating on taking the Switch and then getting the Castlevania collection, because I am interested in playing those. I've never played a Castlevania game like to completion, or specifically the advanced games. Like, I've dabbled in them, but I've never like actually
playing games as like a teenager where you're like, oh, this is fun to play, and you're not like I want to know what happens to the story and I want to beat this game like you are when you're in your 20s and 30s and 40s. It's a different dynamic.
Yeah, so I might pick up Castlevania no matter what, and I'm picking it up on a Switch, but I just don't know if I'm taking it on my trip. Just because airports are weird. I just kind of want to knock out on a plane, if anything.
Yeah, that's definitely a thing that I like to try to do as well. So.
Yeah.
All right, so we got a couple questions in, just some brief questions. So you'll guys have a little bit more time next week. Send us some more questions. You can put them in the Discord server. You can put them on Facebook. You can put them on Twitter. #AskDigitalDays. So Roy Gibbs, October's almost here. Any recommendations for a Halloween game? I'll be going into my backlog to play The Evil Within. Go ahead, because I don't really have any Halloween. I've heard Costume Quest is great.
Costume Quest is a cute like Halloween game, but if you're looking to be actually scared, if you're on PC, Phantasmophobia, if you're playing with friends, is still a really cool thing. They just patched it recently. That's basically a co-op ghost hunter game that actually like monitors your audio like pretty well. I really, even though it's an old game, if you still have a PS3, Siren Blood Curse is still a creepy, fantastic game. Those would probably be my suggestions. And then a Silent Hill game. I mean, I know they're old, but they're still creepy as hell. So if you can find a Silent Hill game, and you can tolerate old game is old, I still think they hold up pretty well if you get over that. I'm trying to think if there's been anything recent outside of the Resident Evil games that would be worth playing.
But even like I've played some of the Resident Evil games, and maybe 7. I haven't played 7 or Biohazard, one and the same. Like 4, 5, and 6 definitely don't give off like a horror vibe to me at all. Yeah,
and that's the problem. But like in terms, that's kind of where the genre has gone. It feels like.
If you have VR, like there's a ton of cool stuff. Like I don't know if they've ever patched it, but I mean it made my stomach turn. But like Here They Lie looked like it had something like really interesting going on in it. I just don't know if they fixed any of the motion.
You can
issues.
play it outside of VR now.
Okay, so like
which is probably
there was definitely an interesting dynamic in there. The Until Dawn is it's a Halloween-esque type thing. The on-rail shooter was kind of cool. It kind of, again, it didn't give off like a horror vibe, but it definitely gave off like a Halloween carnival ride vibe that was fun to play. And it was fun.
Mm-hmm.
So
if you're on Xbox or PC, like pick up Dead Space. Like I know they're remastering it, but Dead Space still holds up really well.
I haven't got very much farther in it either. It's on Game Pass still. It also just came to PlayStation. The Medium. Yeah,
Medium's. It's more creepy than scary, but it's perfect for Halloween. Even though it's one of those games where I didn't end up finishing it because it didn't hold my interest, it still had some really good design work in the game. So if you're really in the mood for it, like you can probably really get into the Medium, especially when you're hunting out like these specific things.
Diablo 2. Yeah, no, I'm good. All right. So Matt Lowe writes, "Win Battlefield 6 or Battlefield 2042?
2042.
2042. Yeah.
Whatever.
Yeah, the new Battlefield. Are you trying it? And what class will you both start with? Assuming there will be a medic, recon, engineer, assault, and support. Will I try Battlefield? It's on my list. I will probably pick it up. Finances depending. And then also, like, I might kind of wait a little bit with hearing some of those people that have the 7-day early access to it. I might just kind of hold off a little bit on it. But it definitely is something that would be interested to play with the community. And some of the hands-on impressions and the way that the direction the game mode's going in, I don't think it's going to have any of those classes like that. I think you're going to have like a loadout thing, and you can set your own mods and stuff like that. So I think you'll be able to kind of do a mix of like a medic and a recon and an engineer. That's just my opinion, though. I don't think that they've confirmed classes, and nor do I think that they're going to have them.
Well, like, they usually will have classes, but you can always mix stuff up.
But I feel like they're doing more of like a pick 10 thing right now, based on some of the people that had the early impressions post E3 or post EA Play.
Yeah. Well, like, typically, if we're talking about this Battlefield in general, like, I usually go like engineer assault. Like, I don't have the patience for recon, and then support, I feel like, never gets actual respect for Battlefield games, because all you're doing is like throwing ammo out for other people, and they sometimes use it. And then medics.
Yeah.
With 64 player games, it's so hard being a medic, because you just you just get,
you try to revive somebody, get killed. But so I don't know. I'd have to watch it again or listen to it again. But like in July, and I'll find it, and maybe I'll try to see if we can link it to the show, or I'll tweet it out. Khalif, Adams, and Paris, Lily, along with I think it was on Kind of Funny. They had a really good like 2-hour like roundtable discussion about Battlefield right after EA Play. Like, it was really, really good, and they kind of went in depth into what was going on. So like that is definitely something I would say to check out, and that's kind of where I got the impression from that there won't be classes there. So Matt, I'll try to put that in the Facebook group, or I'll just try to send it to you directly. But I mean, obviously you've heard Paris and Khalif on the show before, so they're definitely people that I'm comfortable with and have played games with in terms of their impressions. So it's definitely something that I will definitely try to find for you guys, just to, because we weren't fortunate enough to get that access. We'll get there one day.
One day.
Yeah. All right. So those are the questions using hashtag AskDigitalDays. So please feel free to send those whenever you think of them. Not too much to spotlight this week. Just, episode 100. Sure.
Yeah.
You can follow us on Twitter at DigitalDaysPod. You can follow Michael at TheFirstMJC. You can follow myself at GoodDaveHunt. I would say that this week Michael might be a little bit more Disney-oriented on Twitter, and mine might be a little bit more new appliances, new exercise bike, new yard stuff, as I'm trying to get some stuff together before winter happens. You can join our Facebook group. Links are in the description. You can join the Discord server. Links are in the description as well. And patreon.com/DigitalDaysGaming, where you can check out our Patreon tiers. So that is really all that I have. Michael, you have anything else?
No. Just getting ready for a trip next week. Hopefully, I will have a couple days where I'm not traveling, where I'll be able to play video games. So I'll probably have some Castlevania talk next week, and probably more Deathloop.
Yeah, I need to. I want to finish Kenna. I want to go back to Deathloop, and like Far Cry is really soon. So, like really soon. So like it's October 7th. So like 2 weeks or something. So, all right. That's all that we got. I hope everyone has a great week. Keep moving forward.
Don't be a dick. See ya. Smurfs is terrible.